20 years ago, using technology in an early Stage 1 and Stage 1 classroom on a daily basis for tasks such as quizzes, reviewing and remembering content, and creating projects like movies or cartoons would have seemed absurd. However, in the 21st century classroom, this is the new normal. But is incorporating so much technology into teaching actually positively engaging and beneficial for students? Or is technology hindering quality teaching practices from taking place? Therefore, the educational problem I identified and researched was, does technology positively engage early Stage 1 and Stage 1 students in classroom learning? For my internship, I was placed in a multi-stage kindergarten to Year 2 classroom consisting of 15 students, including 2 autistic students from low to middle socio-economic families. In this class, there was a vast array of learning needs and styles. A majority of the students also displayed challenging behaviour, which often led them to not being able to complete the set work, or disrupting the class so much so that other students couldn't complete their work. The school has provided each student with an iPad of their own to keep at the school. Since integrating the iPads into the learning experiences, many students have won a number of photography competitions in the local and greater communities. The research was carried out in accordance with the National Ethics Application. I sent a letter and permission slip to each student's parents or carer to explain who I am, what I am researching, why I am researching, and asking them to contact me if they have any questions. Out of the 15 students, only 10 permission notes were received. Research conducted about how technology engages students has traditionally focused on Stage 3 classrooms. Preston and Mowbray, 2008, page 53. Some research has focused on early Stage 1 and Stage 1 student engagement, but mainly only when using the smart board technologies. This was a major limitation for me as my classroom did not have a smart board. Instead, the classroom had a computer connected to a TV screen and the students' iPads. Therefore, I wanted to focus on how utilising these technologies could positively engage infant students. Burnett, 2010, states that there is minimal references to children's engagement with digital text in policy created in England, and the same could be said for the current technology in schools policy created by the DET 2014, where there is only a focus on assessment, skills, and providing more technology and resources to the schools. This is all well and good, but if there is no focus on student engagement and knowledge retention, it is meaningless for the students. Preston and Mowbray, 2008, found that learning is much more powerful when multimodal technology supports visual, auditory, and kinesthetic learning styles, and that young students are highly motivated when content is presented on a smartboard as it promotes individual learning later on. Lee and Tsai, 2011, support this notion as they state, when the smartboard is on, we noticed a marked difference in focus and engagement. We believe this increase in engagement leads to more transference and retention of ideas, page 61. However, Preston and Mowbray also found that many students did not like using the smartboard as they do not always get to have a turn. Therefore, by using individual iPads, I believe students would all benefit from the positive side of technology and will still all get to have a turn. Meher-Herzig, 2014, Baek et al. 2008, and Patel 2013's research papers on how technology impacts the classroom were useful to me as they focus on how technology affects teaching practices, which gave me a deeper understanding and knowledge of how I should integrate technology into my classroom. It was essential for me to ensure that technology was being used as a tool and not as something that would fill in an extra 5 minutes each lesson. Where I planned on using technology, I had already tried to think of any way the content could be presented without technology, where it would be more engaging for students. As stated by Preston and Mowbray, 2008, technology does not enhance teaching and learning. It is the way it is used, being another tool teachers can use to increase interactivity. Page 53. In 2000, Ryan and Detsy described positive engagement as an individual showing signs of curiosity, interest, motivation, and persistence in the face of challenge. This is the definition I used to focus my observational data collection on when determining if a student was positively engaged. When designing and implementing my research question and method, I was able to reflect on this description to ensure my students were displaying these signs. Before I implemented the research methods, I designed a history program focused on the heritage of ourselves and others and how the world has changed throughout generations. This allowed me to create meaningful lessons where technology was not only used but also discussed and enabled students to think about why technology is the way it is, where it came from, and where it could potentially lead. These learning experiences were the lessons where I would implement the methods and collect data. When taking observational notes, I focused on asking students questions about what they were doing and how they were going to achieve it. This informed me if they were positively engaged in the learning experience. The interviews I conducted throughout the course of the research were highly effective, as many of the students often had very interesting viewpoints about using technology in the classroom. Even though the interviews were highly effective, they were also the most challenging aspect of the method implementation due to not having enough time in the day to do them. While acting as both the teacher and the researcher, I found that some days I had limited time to do interviews because of a number of variables. On some occasions, where a student and I had a disagreement, they would sometimes refuse to be interviewed as they did not want to talk to me. It had become very challenging being both the researcher and the teacher as students started to develop different relationships with me which they could not let go of when I was trying to conduct the interviews. As a result, I only recorded students when they did not have, to my knowledge, anything else affecting them apart from the learning experience, to gain the most accurate reflection of their thoughts and feelings towards using technology to positively engage them in the learning experiences. By the end of week 7, I found that a majority of students were the most curious, interested, motivated, and persistent when technology was used in moderation with traditional quality teaching practices. Therefore, I conducted a week-long intervention where every learning experience taught used a combination of traditional teaching practices and technology which was meaningfully integrated. This intervention allowed me to observe if students would engage positively with the learning experiences and if it affected their overall retention of the information. Throughout the implementation of the intervention, I constantly took observational notes on the student engagement with technology or with the traditional learning styles, collecting work samples and conducting interviews. During the collection of data, I found that a lot of the quiet and reluctant students became more curious and interested in their work. This is supported by Lee and Sy 2011, which illustrated how when using technology, shy students were more confident and very eager to come up and use it, page 68. And further supported by Herzig 2004, who found that 70% of teachers agreed that technology increases classroom participation and therefore engagement. In my classroom, students often broke down if I told them they had to edit their work. However, I found that by using technology and asking if they thought their projects were the best they could be, all became persistent and more engaged in the challenge. A challenge I faced during the research was due to me not scaffolding the technology-based learning experiences enough. Preston and Mowbray 2008 support scaffolding due to their finding about how kindergarten students require considerable amounts of scaffolding and teacher modelling when using technology. In an early lesson where students used the application Puppet Pals to animate a narrative they wrote, I found that most students had just randomly said words and played with the characters, instead of actually creating the animation. Therefore, I began creating pairs who could work together to develop quality projects when using the iPads. This ensured all students had some level of support if I was not available. Over the course of the research, I found using a combination of technology-based and non-technology-based learning experiences, students became more curious, interested, motivated, and persistent. This is evident in the data I collected and graphed. Positive student engagement rose after I implemented meaningful technology integration. It also became evident that all students had developed a deep understanding of the history program that was being taught using a mix of technology and non-technology based lessons, as all students passed the summative assessment. This proves they developed an understanding of and retained the content through engaging with technology and traditional teaching practices. However, some variables which must be considered when using technology are: to ensure the work is of a quality standard, it is imperative to scaffold the technology-based learning experience due to students becoming distracted or not fully understanding what they are being asked. It is also essential to ensure the technology which is being used is actually meaningful for student learning. Students still see technology as a toy and not as a tool, and that mentality must change in order for students to fully and positively engage with their learning.